часть войны мне пришлось вести боевые действия. Хороший очень самолет. Один из лучших.
Hello, I'm Burt Lancaster. I'm here with a man who played a unique and a compelling role in the unknown war against the Germans. In 1941, he was a senior of first lieutenant. Today, he is Marshal of Aviation for Krishna. On June 22nd of 1941, the Germans, in a surprise attack, caught and destroyed more than 2/3 of the Soviet combat aircraft while they were still on the ground. Hitler and his generals felt that this devastating blow would end the war in Russia very shortly, but they were wrong. For the Soviets fought back. They developed new tactics. Slowly, gradually, the balance shifted. Marshal Pokrishkin himself shot down 60 Nazi aircraft in World War II. Now, the highest Russian military award is the Golden Star of the Hero of the Soviet Union. It was awarded to the Marshal 3 times. And tell me, Marshal, you flew an incredible amount of missions, and yet you've managed to survive. Will you tell us something about your experiences?
Вообще, моя мать после войны говорила мне, что я потому выжил, что родился в рубашке.
My mother told me I survived because I was born lucky. But of course it's not the point. I had to fight from the first to the last day of the war. Before the war, I was already a good airman and good at shooting. And during the war, I studied air battle tactics. All that helped me to fight better, to shoot down the Nazi aircraft and come out of it alive.
Лучше воевать, сбивать немецкие фашист-самолеты и в то же время самому выжить.
Thank you, Marshal Pokrishkin. And now our story, War in the Air. The summer sky of June 22nd, 1941, over Russia. A brand new battlefield, the dawn of Operation Barbarossa. Its object, the destruction of the Soviet Union. Bombers of 3 Nazi air fleets, a total of 2,750 aircraft, delivered the airstrike. Their mission was to destroy the Red Air Force on the ground and lay a carpet of steel ahead of the German panzers as they rolled over the border. These same bombers had already laid waste to the cities of Europe: Madrid, Guernica, Barcelona, Rotterdam, London, Liverpool, Coventry. Their targets were troops, farms, homes, traffic on the roads, anything that lay in their path, and particularly Soviet airfields. Before noon on this first day of the air war, the Nazis destroyed 800 Russian planes on the ground, 400 more in the air. The attacks came as a surprise. Along the entire front of 1,800 miles, the columns of smoke began to rise.
spite of the Germans' numerical superiority, those Soviet fighters that were left rose to the attack. They were slower and less maneuverable than their enemies. But on that first day of the war, several Soviet pilots found a way of overcoming the difference. They flew straight at the Nazi planes and rammed them in midair, like drivers at a demolition derby. Incredibly, sometimes they survived, parachuting down. Even when badly wounded, the Soviet pilots would try to bring their aircraft home. Pilots were available. Planes were badly needed. Luftwaffe destroyed over 1,000 Soviet planes on the first day of the war, the newspapers in Germany announced triumph. They were premature. German intelligence had overlooked three factors. The first was the determination and ability of the Soviet pilots. The second was the fact that the cream of the Red Air Force's fighter strength had not been committed in the initial battle. The third was that the Soviet production capability had been underestimated. All this amounted to a major miscalculation. The first Nazis taken prisoner were Luftwaffe pilots. The Russians claimed 200 Nazi planes shot down that first day. But the air was still full of Germans. Moscow lay ahead. Moscow, the heart of the Soviet Union, the symbol of Russia. Remembering the fate of other cities, Moscow made ready. In less than 3 weeks, the German army had covered 2/3 of the distance of the capital. The pattern was familiar. First the blitzkrieg, then the massacre of cities from the air. But the air war in Russia was not like that in the West. Moscow was savagely attacked, but because it was so vigorously defended, no real damage was inflicted. The air war in Russia was fiercest over the battlefields, but there were times when the people of Moscow felt themselves in the front line. Like the citizens